Hello everyone, hope you're all fine. Today I'm excited because I'm going to show you how I created this car animation. It's going to be a full tutorial and beginner friendly. So if you always wanted to learn car animation in Blender, you're in the right place. This is the new version of a video I already made 2 years ago. Many things have changed since, so I decided that it was time to create a new and better version of it for the release of Blender 4. For the topics, we are going to cover object import, car animation on a path, advanced car animation, road creation, camera animation, scene setup like buildings, city props and people, lighting, water drops, render settings, composition in DaVinci Resolve. Yeah, we have a lot to cover, but it will be fun and rewarding. So let's dive in just after this quick shout out. Hello everyone and welcome to The Ride, my Blender car animation course created for beginners and intermediate users who want to get into car animation. I'm so proud to present this project. It's more than 64 videos and 11 hours of training, and today I can finally share it with you. In this course, you are going to cover all the topics you need to master in order to create your own 3D projects, such as environment design, lighting, animation, camera framing for TikTok, Instagram or YouTube short, smoke simulation, DaVinci Resolve, sound effects, and the list goes on. I will also provide all the necessary assets that you need to follow along. My updated city pack with skyscrapers, city props, and 22 new buildings that you can use in all your animations. HDRI magic to create realistic animations in a few clicks, and with the collaboration of Ashworth Cars, 3D Shaker, and Zephyr 3D, you will also get this C63 AMG, this Audi RS5, this Corvette C8, and this beautiful Mustang. Yes, everything is included in this course. Okay, first for this animation, of course we need a car. If you don't have one, you can check this tutorial where I explain how to grab free cars and how to rig them to ease the animation process. Or you can simply grab my C63 AMG for free. Yes, you heard it well. I'm offering this car for free so you can follow along. And by the way, this is the same car I used in the introduction video. It's a professional car ready for animation. The link to download this beauty will be in the description. Okay, now in Blender, it's time to import the car in our scene. So let's just delete the default cube first. You click on the cube and you press delete and you go in File, Append. So this is the way we are going to import the car in our scene. You locate the file where you have downloaded the car. You click on the blend file, Append. You go in Object. You select everything by pressing A on your keyboard and Append again. Great, now you will have the car in your scene. And one thing I like to do is just to be sure that we are all facing the same direction, be sure that you have the -y direction for the forward axis. Okay, so -y and y direction. And to keep things organized, let's move a few stuff around. So here, we don't need the WGT objects. So let's create a new collection, right click, new collection. You double click on it and you name it ND, like not needed. You select all the objects starting with WGT and we are going to move those objects in the not needed collection. So you press M to move and you select not needed. And we can deactivate this collection by clicking this little checkbox. Yay, first step is done. The car is available in our scene. And as you can see, the car is already rigged. What does it mean? Well, you see all those controls you have available. This is the rig of the car, okay? If I go in pose mode, you don't have to do that. I'm just going to show you that now, and we will go in details later. The rig is actually composed by all those controls with colors. For example, this control, if I move it, see, I can move my car, I can animate my car, I can move this one, for example, for the steering, this one for the suspension. So the rig is really important when you want to animate a car because it will ease the animation process. And without it, you will have to do everything manually. And the next step is to install the Rigacar add-on. And normally to do so, you will have to go to the dgcreators.net website in order to download this add-on. But unfortunately, this version is not updated for Blender 4. So you will have to use my version that I have fixed. I will put the link in the description. So I repeat, do not use this version. okay, because it will not work, use the version I will put in the description because I'll fix it for Blender 4. Okay, so once you have downloaded the fixed version, you will have to install it in Blender. And to install an add-on in Blender, it's very easy. You go in Edit, Preferences, you click on Add-ons, Install, and you search for the add-on you just downloaded. The file should look like this, Rigacar Master Fix. You select it, and you click on Install Add-on. Then you will have the add-on displaying here, and be sure to check this checkbox to activate the add-on. And to verify that everything is correctly installed, you click on the rig, and you press N on your keyboard to bring those panels, and you verify that you have the Rigacar add-on just displaying here. Okay, we have everything that we need to start animating the car. Let's delete this light, and let's move this camera away. And the idea to animate the car is to create a path that the car will follow. So we will attach the car on this path, and the car will just follow the shape of the path. So let's do that. Let's create a path for this car. And to do so, you press Shift A on your keyboard to bring this menu, and you select Curve and Path. So yes, we have our path here, or here, the path. Let's move this path so we can see it a little bit. And G and X, okay, to move it on the X-axis. And here is the path. And before we rotate the path, let's see what is its forward direction. Because this is a path, there's no arrows, so I don't know if it's going on this side or this side, right? So let's see how we can find that. So you select the path, and you press Tab on your keyboard to go in Edit mode, right? Or you can select just here Edit mode. And once you are in Edit mode, here in Blender 4, you will have this little icon, Curve Edit Mode, and you press this arrow, and you activate the normals. And here we can see now the direction of the path. Okay, so we have this information, so it's going this way. So let's go back in Object mode, you press Tab again, and let's rotate this guy, okay? If you don't have these panels, you press N on your keyboard, and you go in here in Item. So let's select the path again, and here you can rotate the Z, okay? We can rotate the Z axis on the Z axis, and we are going to do a minus 90 degrees. So now, if you go back in Edit mode, yeah, cool. We are going in the right direction. Let's scale this path a bit, so S, and let's scale it, just like that for our test. And a mandatory thing to do when you are scaling your path, when you are changing its shape, you need to apply the transformation, right? So, and this is to avoid that deformation when you will put the car on it. So when you are finished with the scaling of your path, you press Ctrl A on your keyboard, and you apply all transform. So to attach the car on the path, you click on the rig. Okay, you go in pose mode. To go in pose mode with your keyboard, you press Ctrl and Tab. Okay, and then you will go in pose mode. Or you can just select the pose mode here. Okay, pose mode. So you can go in pose mode only when you're selecting an object which can go in pose mode. I mean, which has controls, okay, to be controlled in pose mode. So the same if I select the path, you see there is no pose mode. Now I select the rig, and now I do have a pose mode. So you go in pose mode, you select the rig, you go in pose mode, Control Tab, or you select here. You select this blue one. This is the one we are going to attach to the path. And to do so, here, you go on the blue bone that you can see here, bone constraint. And a common mistake that I see all the times, when I see all the times is like thousands of times, people are using the bone here, the green one, and that will not work. You have to use the blue one, bone constraints. So you click on that, add bone constraint, and here we are going to select follow path, because this is exactly what we want to do, okay, to follow a path. So click on that, and we'll ask you, okay, what is the path you want to follow? Then you click on this little color picker from Photoshop, and you click on the path here or here, whatever you want. So I will do that here, and boom. Yay, we have the car attached to the path. That's perfect. One common issue we have at this stage is, okay, sometimes when you attach the car, is disappearing. So where is my car? It's because you do have already a location here. And that's not good because we want our location to be 0, 0 according to this path. So all you have to do is to come here in Object, okay, with your car rig selected. You go in Object and you change those values to 0. That's it. If you do that, your car will be just here. So now we do have this car attached to the path. Let's fix a few things. First, the forward axis, as we said earlier, is the minus y axis here. Okay, we are going forward this way. So here we're going to change that and say this is minus y. We want our car to follow this path. Okay, so we will check this little checkbox. And one other thing is, here we will have the offset. Consider it like the position of my car on the path. If I change this value, look at this. Okay, this is minus. I have to put minus values to move forward. And the thing is, I can put any values. So that's very disturbing for us because how do I know what is the value to go at the end of this path? You know, it's very confusing. So a cool option to check is this one, fixed position. And this fixed position make things so much easier. And how so? Well, this offset factor now will have the value of 0 or 1 only. So it will start at 0 at the beginning of the path and it will always be 1 at the end of the path because we check this option. So now if I put 1, boom, I am at the end of the path. And I can change now the length of the path. I can change the shape of the path or whatever. It will always be the same. So it's very important to check this checkbox fixed position to ease the animation process, because we know that if I want to go in the middle of the path, I just put 0.5 here and I will be in the middle of the path. Okay, great. So now we have everything set up to test our first animation. And for that, be sure to be in pause mode. You select this blue control. In keying, you select location, rotation, and scale. And we are going to insert a keyframe in frame number 1. So once again, be sure to have this blue control selected. You move your mouse over this offset factor value and you press I on your keyboard. And here you will see you have inserted the keyframe. Perfect. And let's do the same. Okay, position 150. And here you change the value to 1 and you insert another keyframe. So you press I on your keyboard with the mouse over the offset factor value. And now, as you can see, we have 2 keyframes. If we go back in frame 1 and you press spacebar, yay, we have the car moving along the path. One thing that I don't like for this animation is the car doesn't have a constant speed. Okay, it's ramping up and we don't want that for our animation. We want a constant speed. So you move your mouse on the timeline and you press A on your keyboard, right click, interpolation mode, and you select linear. And now, if I play the animation, as you can see, we have a constant speed. And one thing I would like to explain is, at the moment, if we go in the output panel here, the frame rate of the project is 24 frames per second. And you should change for that as well if you want to match the cinema values. It means that we display 24 frames per second. So 150 frames is 6.25 seconds. If you want your animation to be faster, all you have to do is to give it less frames. For example, I don't know, here 80 frames. Now if I press spacebar, see, my car is faster. If you want it to be slower, you just move these frames, the end frame, okay? You don't move all the keyframes, you just move the end one. For example, 200 frames, and now my car will be very slow. So this is how you change the speed of your car. So we know now how to animate the car on the path. Now it's time to take care of this path and to give it the shape and the length that we want for our project. And to work on our path, we need to go back in object mode. So here you select object mode or you press Ctrl Tab on your keyboard and you click on the path. Actually, our path is 24 meters long. Let's make it, for example, 200 meters. here 200 meters, and you press Ctrl A just to be sure, and you apply all transforms. And let's decide now what will be the length of our animation. And for my case, I wanted my animation to be 250 frames, so a little bit more than 10 seconds. So from there, let me show you how you can calculate the speed of your car, because it's very important for the realism of your animation to have a realistic speed, because if it's too slow or if it's too fast, it's going to be weird for your animation. So let me show you how to do that. I have created this Google Sheet. The link will be in the description, and you will be able to save it for your own use. So let's say my project FPS is 24, and the total animation rates for our case is 250 frames. And what we just did, we extend the length of our path to 200 meters. So it means that the speed of our car at the moment is 69 km per hour. For our animation, it's a bit slow. We cannot change the FPS, we cannot change the length of the animation, because this is the target length that I have in mind. But what we can do is change the path length. So it means that we need to raise the value of the path, because if I lower the value of the path, as I showed you earlier, it will be much slower. So let's raise the value of the path. Let's go for example, 200 meters. For 200 meters, it means that my car will be at 100 kilometers. And you saw the animation, the car is in the middle of the town. So I think it's a pretty good values for that. But this is not an accurate speedometer, I will say, because Blender, whatever is the curve of my path, if I click here and if I add a curve, see, I do that, here, my path is still 200 meters. So we know that it's not 200 meters anymore. But at least it's giving us a rough idea. And of course, we are not going to do this curve in our animation. So what I mean is, maybe it's better to take a lesser value, like for example, 228 or maybe 260. But we know that because of the curves we are going to add, then the speed will go roughly around 100 kilometers. Or if you don't want to do that, it's totally fine to keep 300 meters. Just know that your car will be a little bit faster than the speed indicated here because of the curves. So here, because I want my car to be around 100 kilometers, I will put 300 meters for the length of my path. And as usual, Ctrl A and apply all transform. Okay, great. Now that we have the correct length and we know that the speed is good, let's work on the shape of the path. So you click on the path and you go back in edit mode by pressing tab on your keyboard. And here on this path, you will see those little dots. Those are control points that we can move in order to change the shape of the path. So for example, if I click on this point and I press G and X to move it on the X axis, as you can see, I can create a curve here. The thing is, we only have 3 control points that we can play with, because those ones obviously are at the end of the path. So it might be not sufficient for our needs. So let's create more. You select those 3 points like this, and here in segments, you click on subdivide. So it will create more points, and one more time. Okay, so now we have a lot of points to play with, but it doesn't change anything concerning our animation. It's just giving us more control for our curves. So let me move those points here. So to move a point, it's like an object. You press G and you select the axis, so Y. And I will move those points around here. And let's say I want the first curve here. So I select my point, I press G and X. And like this, I'm creating a curve here for my car to follow. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Maybe I just go and move those points. So you select those points and G and Y just to move them here. And if you move those points, as you can see now, my curve is a little bit longer, but maybe this is not what I want. Let's move those here, G and Y. And this one, I don't need it to be that long. So yeah, just like this. So my car will do this, boom. Maybe it will avoid another car. And instead of going in the straight line, Let's move it the other way. So I will move those points here, like this. And this one, maybe this one, I will move it the other way, like that. So my car is doing that, and then here, and then it's going back on the straight line. But I feel that it's a little bit too much, so let's allow all those curves to be a little bit subtle. And this one, I think it's too close from the straight line. You see, because here it's a straight line, and now we have a curve already. So maybe we could move this point around here, so the car has the time to do the curve. It's a smoother animation, right? And maybe it's a little bit too much as well. Something like that. Too much. Yes, you don't need to create big curve. I have a little curve around here. Oops. I have a little curve around here and another one here. And I feel that's enough for the animation. If we look at this, okay, so the car is turning here, and then it's turning back here, and then it's coming back on a straight line. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And what you don't want when you're creating curves like this on your path, you don't want hard angle. I think it's better to have a smooth transition between the curves. Okay, so we are happy with our path. As usual, Control A and apply all transform. And let's check one thing before we continue. You click on the rig and you go in pose mode, so Control and Tab, and you click on the blue rig. And yes, I forgot to update the end of my animation, because actually my animation is stopping at frame 200, and this is not part of the calculation we made. We need the animation to stop at frame 250. So now I'm using the 250 frames for my animation, and now only my car is going around 100 kilometers per hour. Okay, I go back in object mode, and let's continue with our first camera animation. We are going to place the camera behind the car. And this is our first camera animation, and this is not the final one. It's going to be a very simple one. And the idea is to have the camera behind the car just to check the actual car animation and to do some tweaks for this car animation. You go behind the car like this, and you press on your keyboard Ctrl, Alt, and 0. Maybe you won't have the same settings, so let's go through my settings quickly. I click on the camera, and I click on this camera icon, and here I have the pass part out at 1. Okay, maybe you have it at 0.5, but I like to have it at 1, so it's black around my camera. And you need to update the clip end for 1000 meters. It means that your camera will see at 1000 meters. And let's not touch the other settings for now. We will come back later for that. To have this cinematic aspect ratio, you need to go in output here, and you change the wide resolution to 817. This is the cinematic aspect ratio. And one more thing, I am actually in the view of my camera, but if I want to reframe my camera here, it's going out of the view. So what I need to do is you press N on your keyboard and you check camera to view, okay, in the view. And now I can move my camera like this, my camera angle or my framing. But if I want to go back and maybe zoom the image a little bit more, I have to untick it. So tick and tick, tick and tick. And it's a pain to do that. So what I did, I have created a shortcut for that. So right click, I will remove my shortcut. And what I did is right click, assign shortcut, and you select the shortcut we want. Personally, I did use Control and this sign. Okay, I don't know what is the name in English, but you can see it there. It's next to the one on your keyboard. If you are happy with the first frame, let's press, you select your camera, you go in frame 1, and you press I on your keyboard to insert a keyframe. And let's go in frame 250. I will go out of the camera view by pressing 0 on the numpad. You select your camera and you just move it behind the car. So G, Shift Z to lock the Z axis. I will move it around here and 0 again to see where we're at. And now I will do the tweaking that I need to do. Maybe something like that. And I will press I again on my keyboard. So if we check the animation now, we go back in frame 1. We have an issue because the car is way faster than the camera, and now we have this desynchronization. And why do we have that? Well, if you remember, for the car, we have an interpolation mode between the keyframes, which is linear. And by default, the interpolation mode here for the camera is Bezier. So we need to change that. So you select your camera again. On the timeline, you select all the keyframes by pressing A on your keyboard, right click, interpolation mode, and you select linear as well. So now they will have roughly the same speed. So if I go back in the camera view by pressing 0 on my numpad and I press spacebar, okay, great. Now I can see the animation of my car. Let's deal with the steering and the wheels now. It's very easy with the Rigacar add-on. You select the rig, you press N on your keyboard, you go in the Rigacar add-on, and you click this button, Bake Car Steering, for the steering, 1 to 250, that's correct, and you press OK. That will insert automatic keyframes for us, and you do the same for the wheels rotation, Bake Wheels Rotation, and OK. Now, if I check my animation, yes, everything is working fine. That's perfect, the steering and the wheels. We will finalize the car animation later, you will understand why. Now is the time to create our road. So be sure to be in object mode, and from there, you press Shift A on your keyboard, Mesh, and Plane. You can press numpad period to focus on this plane, and let's rename it Road. So you click on this road, you press N, and you go in Item. Here you will change its dimensions, so 14 meters for the X, and 7 meters for the Y. And let's rotate it 90 degrees on the Z axis. Yeah, our road is pretty ugly, so we need to texture it. So you go in shading. Be sure to be in material preview mode here, this little icon. Again, you can press numpad period to focus on the road, and you click on new to create a new material for this road. So actually we only have a principal BSDF, and from there we can change the color of the road. But of course this is not what we want to do. So in the description, I will share with you the link of this road.zip, and you will have several images in it. And let me show you how you can use those images to texture the road. So in Blender, we are going to activate a free add-on. You go in Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and you search for Wrangler. So you will find this add-on, Node Wrangler, which is here in Blender by default, but is not activated. So you activate it. And this add-on is great to handle nodes in Blender. Okay, here in the node editor, you select the principal BSDF, don't forget to do that. And you press Ctrl, Shift, and T, that will open this window. Don't forget to unzip the road.zip file to have access to those images, and from there you select the roughness, you press Ctrl to select several files, the normal and the base color, and you click on this button, and boom, Node Wrangler will do everything for you. And look at the result, we already have a beautiful road. And you could leave it that way, but I like to tweak a few things. So let's move those nodes here, and you will delete this normal map. Let's create a new node, Shift A, you search for bump, and you plug the normal to the normal, and here the color to the normal. Then you take the color from the roughness and you plug it to the 8, and boom, now you have a lot of details on the road. Maybe too much details, but we'll fix that in a few seconds. First, let's take care of the base color. We are going to add a new node. So Shift A, search, and you search for mix. And here, mix color. You unplug this one and you put it on A, and you take the roughness as well and you put it on B. And now the result, you plug it back to the base color. Okay, now it's a little bit white. Okay, we are giving more details to the base color with this roughness. So we might want to lower this value until you have something you like. Okay, maybe something like that. And the effect is a little bit too much for my taste, so we can lower the bump effect here. You lower the strength until you have something you like. At this point, you really change the setting according to your needs. Okay, I like my road, it's cool, there are puddles, there are a lot of details, and yeah, I like it. Once you're happy with your road, you go back in layout, and here you can go in material preview mode as well, or you can just press Z on your keyboard and you select material preview. And one thing we didn't do since the beginning of the tutorial is, of course, I highly recommend that you use Ctrl S to save your file as often as possible. Alright, so we have our beautiful piece of road, but of course it's not covering all our paths, so let's do that. You can move the road maybe here, and I don't know in your country, but in my country, we are driving on the right side of the road, so here. So there are several ways that we could use to duplicate this road, but what I like to do, because it's easy to change your mind after if you're not happy with the result, we are going to use an array modifier. And the great thing with an array modifier is that it's not changing the core of your road. Your road will remain the same, but the array modifier is like a layer that you're adding to your road, and you can change it if you change your mind. So you select your road, and here you click on modifiers and add modifier, and you search for array, and boom. Now you see it's like a copy paste of our road, but actually it's going on the wrong direction. So here on factor X, we are not going to write 1, but -1. So now it's going in the right direction. And now we can raise the count. So here maybe 20. Is it covering everything? Yes, but just to be sure, because our camera will be behind the car, and to give us some room, I will use 40. And in my video, I'm using a 4 lanes road. So let's do that. You click on add modifier, and we will add another array. And this one, we will put 0 on the factor X and 1 on Y. Now I will move everything. So you select the road and GX, and I will put my car around here. Just to be sure that we stay on the road. So let's check that. I will press 7 on my numpad to go in top view, and I will play the animation. And I want my car to always be on the road, just to be sure that it's not going out of the road. So here, yeah, you see here, my curve is a little bit too strong, so my car is going out of the road. So what I can do, I can just move the road again, so G and X, just to be sure that my car stays on the road. So that's perfect here. And okay. So now my car is always on the road. And when we go on a top view like this, we can clearly see the repetitions on the road. But don't worry, once we will be in the camera view, we will not see those repetitions as clearly as it is now. And concerning the path of your road and the curves, don't worry if your car is crossing all the lanes and stuff like that, because this is exactly what we want, right? We want a crazy driver which is avoiding all the cars. We don't want someone who is just driving on his side of the road, right? We want someone who is driving wherever he wants. And now let's take care of the sidewalks. But because it's not a modeling tutorial and I don't want this video to be 3 days long, I just decided to give you the assets so you can follow along. For your information, this sidewalk is coming from my city pack. The link will be in the description. If you have a solo computer and you need background objects for your animation and stills, my city pack is perfect for that. You will have tons of buildings, skyscrapers, street decorations for your projects. So if you like my work or you want to support the channel, that would be a great way to do so. So once you have downloaded the sidewalk file in the description, you open the file and you will have this sidewalk. You click on it and right click, copy object. You go back in your project and right click, paste object. You can rename it, so F2 sidewalk, G, Shift Z. Here, I will make a rotation of 90 degrees, and here you just place the sidewalk next to the road. And don't hesitate to lower it a bit so it's crossing the road like here. And just in case you don't know that, but if you want to have very subtle movements when you're moving an object, so you click on it, and for example G and Z, but you can press Shift on your keyboard so it will make really slow movements. Now we will do the same thing as we did for the road. So you click on the sidewalk, you go in modifier properties and add modifier, you search for array, and here it's not 1 but -1, and you raise the count. So it was 40 for the road. Is it enough? Yeah, it's a little bit too much. So yeah, 32 is enough. And now I want this sidewalk to be a little bit wider. So you click on the sidewalk, Alt D to duplicate, and G and X to move it until you have something like that. You click on the copy, G and Z, and Shift. You hold Shift and you lower it a bit, just like this. Okay, perfect. That's good enough for the animation. And when you're happy with your sidewalk, you can make it a single object. So you select the different copies and Control and J to join. And here I will apply this array. So you click on this little arrow, you click apply, and you confirm. Okay, now we don't have an array anymore, but we have a single object, which is this sidewalk. Now to put it on the other side, Alt D and G and X, we change the rotation to -90 degrees. I will press 7 to go in top view, and G and Y to move it. Let's adjust the X position, so J and X. Perfect, now we have our sidewalks. When we check the car animation, we can feel that there is something off. One of the issues is there are no movements coming from the road. No bumps, no holes, nothing. It's like you are driving on a perfect road. And we all know that there is no such thing. So let's add some irregularities on the road to improve the realism of the animation. So you click on the road and you go in edit mode. You press tab on your keyboard. And here, if you press A, you can see that our road is still just this little plane that you have created at the beginning. So if we modify this little plane, we will modify everything else. And the idea of what we want to achieve is we want to create little bumps like this everywhere on the road to create those irregularities you are talking about. But at the moment, the road is just this one face. So there is no way for us to create those little bumps. The solution for that is to give more details to our road. So to do that, in edit mode, you press A to select the faces and right click, subdivide, and you click here. And for the number of cuts, you select something around 60. So now, if I press A again, as you can see, now we have a lot of different faces to work with. Okay, from there, let's go back in object mode. We still have the road selected. And let's add a new modifier. So you go back in the modifier properties, you click on add modifier, you search for displace. And we will use this modifier to create those holes and bumps for us. And for that, we will use a texture. So here you click on new, okay, that will be our texture. Let's name it clouds. And here you will click on the texture. And here is our clouds texture. At the moment, it's an image or movie. We don't want that. Let's change to clouds. Great. So now we do have this texture. We do have those bumps and holes on the ground. So let's go back in frame 1. Why do I have this keyframe? Let me delete that. If I go in the camera view and I press spacebar, here we do have bumps on the road, but our car is not reacting to them. So let's fix that. You click on the rig, you go in the Rigacar add-on, and here you have ground sensors. And with this function, we can tell to the rig, this is the road we want you to react to. So let's do that. For each sensor, you're going to select the road. So you click on this little color picker and you select the road. And you do that for all the sensors. Now, if I go back in camera mode and I press spacebar, hey, now our car is reacting to the road. Perfect. But obviously, it's a little bit too much. So we have to fix the road first, but at least we know that it's working fine. Okay, so you click back on the road and we are here on the texture, and I don't like to have that many holes and bumps. So I will raise the size, because if you raise the size, the bumps are wider and larger. So I like to go for 6, and for the depth, I will use 3. So if you check the result, you see our car now is reacting to the road. It's more subtle, but still, it's still maybe too much. Let's go back here in the modifier properties. And for the strength value, I will go for something like 0.1. But of course, you can change this value to fit your need. So let's see the result now. Okay, now I can see that there are slight movements on my car. It's not too much, and it's adding some realism to the animation because no road is perfect. Well, that's it guys for this first part. This video is already a long one. In the next part, we will deal with the camera animation, buildings, the tweaking of the camera animations, etc. And of course, I will share with you more free stuff to follow along. So allow me a couple of days to finalize part 2. Don't hesitate if you have questions. I talk to you soon. Bye bye.